So good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are, I guess. This is Bonnie Fong, one of the co-chairs of the committee. Looking at the list of attendees, I believe everybody is on our committee. I did get a question from somebody about whether guests could attend, but I don't believe that she is here. So, Irina, you can't hear me? Let me just type it up. Can you hear me? It's Bonnie speaking. I'm hoping that you can hear me. I'll continue to speak just to see if you can hear me or not. Am I not loud enough?
Bonnie, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Let me see if anybody else is having trouble hearing me. Is anyone else having trouble? I guess I should ask, is anyone still having trouble hearing me? Is anybody still having trouble hearing me? Okay. Okay. I believe almost everybody can hear me. So I guess maybe we should get started. I don't want us to run overtime, although I have a feeling we might end a little bit early. So welcome to our annual meeting. This is in place of our usual in-person attendance at the ALA annual conference. This is our final meeting for the year, and the agenda items are basically still the same as the last time I sent them to you. I'm going to see if I can share my screen, at least the Word document where I have the agenda. Do you guys all see that? Oh, am I sharing the wrong one? Do you guys see a Word document, or do you see my calendar? Sorry, I'm trying to. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me share the other screen. Or maybe I'll just switch them. Okay, great. The Zimber was my personal notes. So there's the agenda, and the first item is welcome and introduction. That was in case we had a guest, but I don't see any guests, so it's just us. The second thing was any changes to the agenda.
Bonnie, it looks good to me. I didn't know if you wanted to, I couldn't tell if there was anything in here that mentioned, oh no, I see it now. Never mind. It looks good.
Okay. Okay, great. So I did want to see if anybody could volunteer to take minutes. I'll also be taking notes myself, but it's always nice to have someone volunteer to take minutes and draft something so that two of us are at least looking at them. Any volunteers? Oh, thank you, Sherry. Okay, great. So no changes really to the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually have one change I wanted to add. I wanted to add ALA annual conference activities to the announcement section. We could just make that G, and I'll just type that in. Again, we're not required to attend the ALA annual conference, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what activities STS was putting on, and see if you would be interested in attending any of those. All right, so I guess we're up to the announcements part of our agenda. As most of you might be aware, if you've checked the roster, I'll be rolling off of the committee after June 30th, and Lakshmi will continue on as co-chair, and Sherry will be the incoming co-chair. They'll be getting in touch with you guys about, at least the ones who are staying on, about when they would like to have another meeting, that sort of thing. The roster is available at this URL that I'm going to paste into the chat box there if you want to take a look. When I took a look this morning, it looked like a few other people are rolling off of the committee. And I'm just going to take a quick peek at the participants again. Brian, are you rolling off of the committee? I think Kathleen was the other person.
Yes, I'm rolling off.
Sorry, because my volume was a little low. So just in case you're curious about who will be on the committee next year, you can take a look at that. And I want to make sure I thank you all for your hard work this year. Our committee is really based on the work of the volunteers, and I really appreciate all that you guys have put into it. We're a pretty productive committee, as you'll see when we talk about the committee or subcommittee updates. So the next thing that's on our agenda is the Acrl Libguides. I'm not sure how many of you guys are aware, but Acrl now has access to Libguides, which is wonderful because it's a platform that so many of us are familiar with, and we don't have to worry about the turnover on committees. For example, right now our guides are at IUE and Indiana University. And when Sue McFadden wrote off the committee, I contacted her, and she was very generous with her time about getting us set up to get access to the guides, that sort of thing. But it would be extremely helpful if we could just go with the Acrl Libguides. And the STS Council has to meet during the annual conference to talk more about this before it can be implemented for our section. They're supposed to discuss who will be the administrators for the guides. One suggestion was possibly the Publications Committee, but again, that's something that will be discussed at the council meetings that Lakshmi will be attending. The other thing that they're going to discuss is to decide what purposes are all right for the Acrl Libguides, specifically the science technology section ones. So Lakshmi will probably provide an update of that after the conference. I think maybe once they figure it all out and they hopefully decide that the content that we have on our guides right now can be migrated to the Acrl STS Libguides, that might be something the committee says, let's migrate over. Any questions about that?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It'll be really great. We don't have to worry about turnover per se. It'll look more, I don't want to say professional because what we have is pretty professional looking, but it'll look more, I guess, branded. Yeah. The next item on the agenda is just to give you guys a heads up, because we are the Information Literacy Committee. The Acrl Framework for Information Literacy for Higher Education has a sandbox that I noticed was advertised. I'm just going to copy and paste that link in the chat box so it's clickable. It's supposed to be coming this fall, so keep an eye out for it. Maybe the committee will decide they want to do something with it when it's up there. Maybe the resources guide folks might consider linking to it. Maybe the chat committee might see some potential folks for like chat discussion leaders. You never know. The next item is about the ALA annual conference. I'm hoping that everybody is on the STS listserv because that's where all of the information comes from. There was a pocket guide that was sent out on June 15th, and I'm going to copy and paste that link into the chat box there. How many of you guys are attending the annual conference? Oh, good. Good number of you guys. Great. So hopefully you'll be able to attend some of the sessions that the Science Technology section are providing. The member breakfast is always nice. You get a free breakfast. You can meet other STS folks. I think they also have an activity during that time. I did have one question. I'm actually unable to attend the conference this year, and as it happens, Lakshmi is doing a panel discussion during the time that our all committees meeting is taking place. That is at 8:30 a.m. on Saturday. Just pasting that information into the chat box. It would be really nice if somebody from our committee were available to attend the all committees meeting, just to say hi to anybody who would be interested in our committee. Sometimes new members, folks that are coming on July 1st, might show up. They might not realize that we don't meet in person, so they might come to the meeting. Sometimes potential folks would show up and they just want to learn more about the committee. Would anybody be able to attend that on our committee's behalf? Oh, great. That's wonderful. Sometimes people think if they'd like to actually see somebody in person, so that's also a nice place to go meet your fellow members in person. So just a heads up, if you just want to hang out for a little bit that morning, that's where our meeting is, and Sherry will be there. Thank you, Sherry. Any questions about what's happening at the annual conference in terms of STS events? All right. I guess we're up to the next part of our agenda, the chat subcommittee. I think I'll just turn the floor over to Lakshmi so she can let us know what's been happening there.
Thanks, Bonnie. So I was just going to briefly outline and say that we had a fairly full year of chats that I think were very well attended and seemed to be enjoyed by most of the people who were attending them. Hopefully this LibGuide will then be converted to whatever new LibGuide is coming our way from ACRL. But the archive for the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016 year, I think we had 6 sessions. Actually, I think maybe 5 if we don't count the June one, the last June one. But they were all well attended, and I'm hoping that we could maybe schedule more this coming year. It's always hard to get people organized around, you know, the idea of the virtual webinar and getting people organized to come, but I think it's been fairly straightforward. And then I did add to the chat guide, that's the link that I sent, this page for chat guidelines, and it does sort of outline like what needs to happen in order for the chat to get set up. And so like the meeting request form is on there, so that's the form that we send to Lois or whoever receives it to book the room, whether or not it's going to be on Adobe Connect or WebEx, and then it's sort of encouraging a practice session for people to attend. And oh dear, there's lightning. I hope that we don't lose power. And I think that the workflow has been working fairly well. So hopefully that continues on in the next year. I'm not sure. Did anybody have any questions? I have had quite a few people after we like posted the sessions like ask for the archive, and so like I'm happy with the fact that we have this organized archive page now. That seems to be accessible for a lot of people. Yeah, there's definitely interest in our chats.
I think one concern is being able to find chat leaders, right, Lakshmi? Trying to get people to say yes, they can do it. That's right.
Yeah. And there's definitely been like one or two people that I've reached out to a couple times, and they've said yes, I'm interested, and then I just can't get them to pick a date. You know, every time I ask, they're like, oh well, can we do it in a couple months? And then I'll contact them in a few months, and they say, oh sorry, now's not a good time. So it's I understand it's definitely hard to get those speakers to volunteer, but if anybody has any ideas about this or wants to talk themselves or knows somebody, I want to say thank you to all the people who did volunteer and did participate. Like we had a lot of our own people participate and a lot of people reach out and find speakers. So thank you to everybody who made that possible. It was really great work on the part of everybody in the chat subcommittee.
Lakshmi, do you think it would be helpful if we set the dates ahead of time and just ask people, well, here are the dates, which one do you want?
I feel like we've tried that, or it just seems like when we pick the dates, then inevitably people they're like, oh, I can't do it on that day, versus like, could you do it in September? And they say, sure, and then we ask them we ask the potential discussion leader to pick the day on the month that they choose. So I wouldn't be opposed to say, you know, like say, can you pick a month, and then what day in that month works for you? But I'm not sure. Maybe just, you know, saying like these are our days, we got to find people for them might be more useful.
Yeah, I mean, I think having it around the 15th of the month is helpful, just so people who are interested in it will maybe keep an eye out for it or that sort of thing. And I mean, I would hope that if someone promised to do something on a certain date, they put it on their calendar. I don't know.
Yeah, it's more that I can't get them to promise to even stick to that day originally. So like when I ask them, are you free September 15th? They say no. Are you free October 15th? No. Versus like, are you free in September? What day is usually? And then they pick a day, and then they do stick with that day.
Oh, okay.
So it's more just finding the people, not necessarily those people that we do find sticking to the day. So yes, I'm looking forward to. We'll see when we get new people too who joins which committees, and that will probably also be a nice fuel for new ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
If there aren't any last questions about the chat subcommittee and their activities for this past year, I guess we can move on to the resources subcommittee update.
So I can give a quick update. We have just finished all of our revisions on the guide for this year. And let me just paste in the URL for that so you can all find it. So that leads to the guide, and it's had a few fairly major revisions this year. The biggest thing is probably that we added 2 tabs, one for the framework, which goes into some of the stuff that we know already about how people are implementing it, and hopefully we'll give people some ideas about what they might like to try. And then we also added a feedback tab, and this lets anybody who wants to suggest resources for us. As it is currently, I think I'm the one who's reviewing that, and since it's only been up for a couple of days, we don't actually have any suggestions yet, but that's something that the resources subcommittee will probably be talking about in the next year. We also made a few changes, in particular to the lit review page. We decided to cut out some of the older items in favor of incorporating some new ones. So there have been a few changes there, and then also that has led to creating a doTERRA bibliography to keep those core items involved without having to put them all on the same page. So if you're interested, take a look at the library. It's really interesting. Other things that have changed, we've had a few smaller changes to some of the other tabs as well, in particular the assessment and the data information literacy, mostly just like correcting broken links and reorganizing things. And then of course the branding that was added to the homepage. just to kind of support the idea of moving to Acrl Libguides would be a good thing, I actually got locked out of this guide about 2 weeks ago, which is unfortunate and a reason why it would be really nice to have our own system. I think that's probably just about everything for us, so does anybody have any questions?
It looks really good.
Do people want a little more time to look over the guide?
There is a lot of information there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it'll take some time to look through it. If you have further suggestions, please feel free to get in touch with Sherry and let her know.
Absolutely. Especially for those of you on the chat subcommittee, if you guys have ideas that we haven't thought of yet, we should consider them for next year.
Yeah, the only thing that pops into my head is, like, I know that there are pages on our LibGuide that I have hidden right now because we haven't really been updating them, and they're sort of the pages that were kind of created as like resources around the topics that were discussed, and so potentially I don't really know if there would be a place here to like add like any of that, but potentially any resources that are discussed within chat, maybe if they're applicable to these categories that are in this guide already, might then be added. I'm not really sure. I'm just thinking out loud. But that's just a thought that occurs to me, so maybe we should discuss that more later.
That might be a possibility. I was actually thinking we don't have a link right now from the resources guide to the chat guide, do we? Or vice versa. We should probably link to the two guides.
That is definitely a good point.
Actually, I think I did add a link from the resources guide to the chat guide this year. And if I did, it's on the home tab somewhere.
Yeah, I see it now. It's
yeah, there it is at the bottom under the committee members. But
yeah, maybe I might want to add a similar page or a similar side thing to ours too. That's a good idea.
If we'd like to give them more prominence, they could be a separate tab at the top. I know that for the resources guide, the tabs are getting, they're kind of multiplying, but it's up to the committee what they decide for next year. Any last questions about the resources subcommittee and their activities for the past year? Okay. Let me see. Sorry, just checking to see. So the next thing is end of the year reports. Last year, the chat subcommittee had, sorry, I'm just going to paste that into the chat box. They had put together an annual report. I'm sharing the link on the chat box there. And the resources subcommittee did the same. I forgot to ask Lakshmi and Sherry if they were ready to share that, or if they would like to, prepare it after the meeting. So sorry about that. But if you want to know what they looked like last year as a sample, that was, I think, the first year that we did this. That's what the the chat subcommittee's annual report looked like. That's what the resources subcommittee one looked like. If Lakshmi and Sherry, if you could draft something, whether similar or different, either way, I believe we may want to have those on record just to make it easier for future committee members to be familiar with the kind of work that we did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. And I guess the Acrl Plan for Excellence annual report is something I'd be interested in having the entire committee's input on. Oh, rough deadline. Sure, do you, I guess maybe would the 30th be too soon? June 30th is a deadline for annual reports from the subcommittee. I know that everybody's going to ALA and you'll be busy. I only made that only came up because that's when technically when the committee members are done with their yearly service. But if you have to submit a little bit later, I think that's fine as well. But definitely by the 7th of July. That's when the Acrl Plan for Excellence annual report is due, and I might be mistaken, but we might need to submit something like that. Sorry, I just don't remember off the top of my head. But in terms of the Acrl Plan for Excellence annual report, I'm just going to open it up in this window here. This is based on Acrl's Plan for Excellence, and the different sections are asked to provide details about how they met some of these different goals. And the Information Literacy Committee, I guess this was from last year? Yeah, from last year. We have, I think I've got my notes at the top of page 3. I'm just going to scroll down to page 3. So last year we said, well, our goal is part of student learning. Librarians transform student learning pedagogy and instructional practices through creative and innovative collaborations. And we said that we met the first objective, identifying innovative practices in learning environments and instruction that enable academic librarians to transform learning. So it's really just this short paragraph here. I guess this year we could just modify it to reflect the topics that were covered this year. Does that sound good, Lakshmi? It's kind of more.
Yeah, that sounds good. I also think it was just 5 this year, not 6. Like we did 6 last year, and then looking at this report that you just sent me, so the count for this year will be 5.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, if you want to maybe just modify that. And then send it back to me, unless you'd like to submit it.
Submit the changes to?
Yeah, it's up to you. I can't recall if that was sent in the email that was on the listserv that you're not yet on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I did manage to get hold of somebody, so I should be getting the emails now.
Oh, good. Okay.
I know we sent in a slide, and the slide looked good, but I can't recall if I saw anything about who I should contact for adjusting these. But I can go back and look.
No, for this one, there's a specific person, I think possibly somebody on the assessment committee or one of the committees that we have to email back. I don't mind submitting it. It's fine. If everybody else wants to take a closer look at the Plan for Excellence and see if there's other areas that would be more appropriate for us to submit our activities under, that would be great too. Just keep in mind this annual report is due July 7th. So that's where our chat stuff is. And then I have in my notes the middle of page 4. Let me just scroll down there. Okay, so this is where the resources guide activities are. Increased understanding of new models of information fluency as pedagogy evolves. And we've got in that last paragraph there that our committee reviews, collects, and publishes a collection of science information literacy resources on the STS IL Science Information Literacy Resources Libguide in order to address the demand that many academic librarians are now facing to teach data information literacy skills. The committee added the data information literacy section. So that's what we did last year. And I guess this year, we would mention how because of the new framework, we added a tab for that. I'm not sure how much more they're expecting. I think that might be the extent of it. What do you guys think? Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, feel free to take a closer look at them and provide any feedback that you might have to me and Lakshmi before July 7th, and we'll probably submit it sometime that day. Great. So any questions about end of year reports? The next item on the agenda is sharing of committee member news. So this is great because I'm thinking to myself, yay, everybody else can talk now. So if you have any committee member news you'd like to share, feel free to type in the chat box or feel free to say it. Especially if you're presenting during the ALA annual conference and you think it might be of interest to folks like science librarians who are interested in information literacy. Lakshmi, you're doing a panel. What's that about?
I am doing a panel. It's not STS related, but it is social justice related. So we're just talking about. I'm working with 2 other Baltimore academic librarians, and just the title of it is Intercultural Programs in Academic Libraries. But we're kind of focusing on how the Baltimore uprising affected our various institutions and how the libraries are involved or not involved in social justice initiatives, and how to take advantage of those times to, work with the students, to work with other groups on campus. I guess we're kind of arguing that libraries aren't really neutral, and we should be neutral in some instances, and so just talking about that. Let me see if I can find the meeting session link on the scheduler.
Cool.
I'll put it in here. There we go.
Great. Anybody else presenting during annual, whether it's a presentation, panel, poster? This is your opportunity to tell us about it so we go. Oh, cool. What's this about a collection thing?
So my collections project is a collaborative thing with a couple of other people here, all in social sciences, and we wrote a script to help us decide whether we needed to do firm ordering, basically, for specific sections of our collection.
Cool. Do you know the timing and everything of it yet?
It's on Sunday afternoon, so if you're still around, let me see if I can actually find it to put it in as well. But yeah, it's late on, so if you're not hanging around too long, you might have to miss it.
I'm staying through the week so I can go to Disney World.
Okay. Any other news from people? You might have already heard this, but I'm going to be the publicity chair for the Science Technology section starting July 1st. So thanks if you voted for me. How about, thank you. How about like publications or interesting projects that you guys are up to? Well, one of the things that I received some good news about this past semester was an internal grant that I applied for with a bunch of collaborators for boot camps for graduate students. We've been offering workshops for graduate students for several years now, and the topics were based on a survey that we did of the graduate students and interviews of their program directors to try and identify the ones they're most interested in. But sometimes they weren't able to attend the workshops because they're busy folks, and we thought maybe if we had boot camps before the semester began or maybe immediately after the semester began, they might be able to attend those full-day boot camps instead of, let's say, an hour here or an hour there for a workshop. So we received a $25,000 grant from the Chancellor's Office to pursue this. So it'll be kind of nice. It's the Dana Library, that's my library, the Graduate School, Writing Center, and Learning Center that are all going to be offering different kinds of boot camps. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, let's see the chat box. Irina's going to be teaching a freshman seminar on science literacy and sustainability in the fall again. That's great. Irina, are you planning on using the framework, the new framework for any of that? That's great. I tried to find articles, books, presentations about science librarians using the framework, and it was difficult. As you can see from the, let me see where it is. Oops. This one. As you can see from the resources guide, the science-specific information, it's pretty sparse right now. It would be wonderful if we could add to it, whether it's based on things that you hear people are doing at their universities or your own stuff. And Sherry, you're on a project team working on technology scouting for a research center. Very interesting. Sherry, what kind of technology? Stuff related to research?
So the technology is, this is coming from a center that focuses on the geosciences that has a really big grant from Homeland Security, actually. So the one we just worked on was actually about detecting tunnels, weirdly. But we're expecting them to come in about other topics from that same center and probably eventually to expand to other topics.
Cool. Is your role more like about helping them with data, or?
Our role so far is about, I mean, the team is really working on setting procedures so that if we decide we're going to do this as a service, it doesn't completely overwhelm us.
Good idea. Irina, you mentioned that your info lit department is working on playlists. What do you mean by playlists? And Peter, you said you're teaching a research methods course, GUR. What's GUR? Oh, okay, thank you. That's great. So that's at the undergrad level, Peter? Okay, I mean, I see playlist, a list of resources we can offer on our website. Yeah, that would be really wonderful, a research methods course where a librarian is allowed to go in and speak to the students. Peter, do you think you'll be using any of the new framework in that course? Oh, wow, nice. An open educational resource text for the class. That's great. Yes, absolutely. I feel like open educational resources, open textbooks, that sort of thing is one of the hotter trends these days. Is anybody aware of any that might be related to science information literacy?
So this past semester, I know here at Towson we had like a series of open education resource that, like there were meetings and discussions with faculty, and it was mostly with the education department. But it would be interesting to see if I could get more of the science department sort of discussing those resources and using those resources in class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think these are things that we should, if we find them, feature them on our resources guide. Irina said that she has a chapter on science literacy. Irina, is that open access? If so, we should definitely try and find a place for it in the resources guide, if it's not already there. All right, great, thanks. Ah, open textbook library, okay. And it's chapter 9. Great. I wonder if that would be something for the literature review section. Open city. Irina, if you have a chance to send that to, Open SUNY link to Sherry, maybe it could be added to, oh, okay, great, thanks. Maybe it could be added to literature reviews on a resources guide, possibly. Great, thanks. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Good reviews, great. And plenty of downloads, over 10,000 downloads. That's wonderful. Any other sharing of committee member news? I feel like this is the time when we find out all of the interesting things we're up to. You know, thinking back, I guess we didn't explicitly ask for suggestions from committee members about ways to improve the committee, maybe procedures, activities. Should we open the floor to suggestions for what you'd like to see more of from the committee or things that would be helpful? I guess I'm sneaking in a 7.5 agenda item. Okay, thank you, Eloise. Yeah, we could definitely use some brainstorming. Like potential places to go look for additional resources to add to our guide, potential places to look for chat discussion leaders. Usually what I do is I look at recent publications and I figure if someone's already written about something, maybe he or she wouldn't mind running a chat about it. It helps them promote their work, you know. In terms of resources, we do have that feedback page now. The feedback tab might get some use, but I guess with resources, it might be similar to where we would look for potential chat leaders, you know, the typical journals. Actually, do we have a running list of journals to look through to try and identify chat discussion leaders? If not, it might be worthwhile for us to start one.
Yeah, I think we just kind of, I don't think we have anything like that formal anywhere. So that might be an interesting resource to make lists potentially, or just something that we keep so that when I email out the subcommittee, I can say, okay, everybody, like, start trying to look through some of these more recent issues if you have access, and or if you, mostly it's been people who are doing something themselves and I want to sort of have an avenue to report that, or they know somebody. So it would be nice to maybe have like a list of places to potentially try to look for other ideas.
Yeah, and sometimes when we attend conferences, whether they're national or regional or local, there might be folks speaking about topics related to science information literacy, and they've already got a presentation put together, so we could probably, hopefully, without too much trouble, convince them to run a chat discussion. Again, it's promotion of their own work. I know that being a chat discussion leader doesn't have as much, I guess it's not held as high of a standard as posters or oral presentations and things like that, but still it's an opportunity to promote their work. How about publicizing them? Do we seem to be getting a good number of attendees? Does the attendance seem to be dropping some for the chats?
For the past few chats, I feel like it's been pretty steady around 50. I think it sometimes goes around like 30, and then occasionally there will be like, we had one in December that was, I think, the using poster competitions to teach information literacy skills. That one that Michael, he led that one, and it was very well attended. I think because they sent out, it was either this one. There was one I remember in particular that was very well attended just because they sent it out to all the people who had participated, and so a lot of the attendees were other people who had participated and wanted to know like how how did the research go, you know.
Great. How about the committee, any suggestions for improvement, new activities, other things to consider? Do you feel like we met enough during the year? I mean, we meet as a big committee 3 times a year, you know, once usually in the summer to introduce everybody to everybody else, talk about what the committee does, break you guys up into 2 groups to be on subcommittees. And then we have our midwinter meeting and our annual meeting. Sometimes subcommittees have email types of discussions rather than meetings. Does that seem to be working okay? I mean, our group is much larger than it's ever been before, so I don't want people to feel like they get a little lost. Okay. Okay, great. Good. So, I mean, I don't want to take up too much more of everybody's time. If you have ideas for improving the committee, suggestions for activities, Laxmi and Sherry will be the new co-chairs starting July 1st. I guess we're ready to adjourn. Thank you again, everybody, for all that you've done this past year. Like I said, we're seen as a pretty productive committee in the eyes of the Science Technology Section Council. So, you know, keep going the way we've been going, updating our resources guide, coming up with new content, improving organization. For the chats, continue to have monthly chats if possible. They are very popular. People are happy that there's, I think, a free way to learn about stuff and talk with other science librarians. So I'm very proud of all of the work that we've done and glad to have such a great group of people to work with. So again, thank you guys very much. And I know that with Laxmi and Sherry as co-chairs for next year, the committee will be in very capable hands.
We'll miss you, Bonnie.
I'll be attending chats, everyone. For those of you who are traveling to ALA, safe travels. I hope you have a great time, and I hope everybody has a wonderful summer. I guess we're ready to adjourn. It's about 2:31 p.m. Eastern Time. So, yeah.
Good meeting. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done, Bonnie. Thanks again to everybody for participating, too.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording and you know, take care, everybody.
Bonnie, I'll work on getting the Chat Subcommittee annual report to you probably sometime by the end of today.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, and Sherry, thank you so much for taking notes.
Okay, I got a dash, but I'll see you ladies later.
Take care.